Don't stay overnight. The hotel room with no mirrors. The neon sign buzzed over the crumbling hotel, its faded letters blinking vacancy through the thick midnight fog. I hesitated at the front steps, suitcase heavy, the street behind me swallowed by swirling silent darkness. The lobby's old carpet smelled of damp secrets, and the desk clerk's eyes barely flicked up as I entered. "Just one night," I said, trying to sound casual, but my voice echoed oddly against the chipped marble walls. He slid the brass key toward me, not meeting my gaze, murmuring something about room 23 and house rules. I noticed every mirror was missing, only shadowy rectangles left behind, as if glass had been ripped from its frames. My footsteps squeaked down the hallway. Each door I passed shut tight and every peephole covered with masking tape. The number 23 was scratched onto the door in a shaking hand, the brass knob cold as ice in my palm. Inside, a single light bulb dangled from the ceiling, throwing strange shadows over faded wallpaper and a too perfectly made bed. I tried to shake the unease, setting my bag down, but the silence seemed to press in all around me. A draft crept from beneath the closet door, carrying a faint scent of perfume and something older mildew and dust. I explored the bathroom. Even above the sink, only a blank rectangle waited, edges sharp where a mirror once hung. I thought I heard a muffled cough from the vents, but maybe it was just old pipes groaning in the walls. My phone had no signal, just static. The clock on the nightstand frozen at 3:33, unmoving no matter what I tried. I sat on the edge of the bed, reading faded guest rolls. No mirrors, no visitors after midnight. Do not open the window. The sheets were oddly crisp, tucked so tight I could barely pull them back, as if made for display, not sleeping. I checked the closet, finding only a wire hanger and a single, moth-eaten suit jacket with initials stitched in blood-red thread. Something scratched softly from inside the walls, a skittering rhythm that stopped whenever I held my breath to listen. I flicked off the light to rest, but the shadows stretched longer, pooling beneath the bed, thick as oil. My eyelids drooped, but a sudden thump from the hallway jolted me awake slow, dragging footsteps approaching, then pausing outside. The door handle rattled once and again, and a hoarse whisper drifted through the keyhole. "You forgot to cover the glass." Panicked, I scanned the room, seeing a shard of broken mirror glinting beneath the dresser, half hidden in the dust. I snatched it up, heart pounding, and in its cracked surface, I saw only empty darkness, not even my own reflection. A sudden chill swept through me, as if something had brushed past, making the curtains billow though the window was shut. I tried calling for help, but my voice was swallowed by the heavy silence, the walls pressing closer with every word. A faint tapping began at the bathroom door, soft at first, then desperate, as if fingernails scraped at painted wood. I pulled the covers to my chin, wishing for daylight, but the bedside clock refused to move, holding the hour in place. Whispered voices grew louder in the vents, repeating my name in overlapping, unfamiliar tones, as if many were trapped within. The smell of perfume grew stronger, sickly sweet, blending with old smoke and the unmistakable tang of rusted metal. I tried the television, hoping for a distraction, but only static and a reflectionless black screen greeted me, humming softly. I glimpsed movement out of the corner of my eye-pale hands, pressed against the blank space where the mirror once hung. My mouth went dry as I realized the hands were on the wrong side, reaching out from behind the wall itself. A thin trickle of water snaked down the bathroom door, pooling at my feet and soaking the edge of the carpet. Every light in the room flickered, the bulb swinging violently. Shadows dancing in shapes I couldn't quite recognize or name. Something thumped inside the closet, and the wire hanger spun slowly, twisting as if caught by an unseen hand. The tapping at the bathroom door became frantic pounding, the wood bowing inward, as if it might shatter with every blow. I pressed my ear to the wall and heard distant weeping voices pleading, apologizing, and sometimes screaming for release. I covered the broken shard with a towel, but the air grew colder, breath steaming in the sudden, unnatural chill. My phone buzzed once with a message, "Do not look at the glass." The sender was simply listed as room 23. I dropped the phone in shock, the screen immediately cracking, spider webbing into a reflectionless black void. I tried to leave, but the doorknob twisted in my hand and refused to turn, locked tight from the outside. The window, forbidden by the rules, suddenly drew my gaze thin cracks, spreading across the glass, whispering my name as they grew. I crawled under the bed, praying for dawn, but the space seemed endless, stretching deeper than it should have been possible. Cold fingers brushed my ankle, and I jerked out, heart thundering, certain I was no longer alone in this room. A shadow darted across the far wall, flickering between the strips of peeling wallpaper, always just outside my field of vision. I counted the seconds, trying to steady my breath, but time remained stubbornly frozen at 3:33 night, refusing to give way. The scent of the moth-eaten jacket thickened, mingling with the perfume, making my head spin with drowsy, uneasy dreams. Someone or something began humming a lullaby behind the closet door, each note slightly out of tune and deeply unsettling. The closet creaked open by itself, revealing only blackness, deeper and more complete than anything I'd ever seen. A face slowly emerged from the shadows, featureless except for two dark holes where eyes should have been, staring straight at me. I scrambled back onto the bed, but the sheets wrapped tightly around me as if intent on holding me down. The air vibrated with low, guttural chanting, rising from beneath the floorboards and pulsing in time with my pounding heart. The closet face began to speak without lips, its voice echoing inside my mind, promising release if I just looked. I covered my eyes, but the voice grew louder, its words twisting and splintering, impossible to ignore, burrowing deeper within. The room grew impossibly cold. My breath became frost, clinging to every surface, painting ghostly shapes on the window pane. The broken mirror shard vibrated beneath its towel, humming with energy, demanding to be uncovered and gazed upon. My name echoed from the bathroom, the syllables stretched and distorted, uttered in a tone I'd never heard before. I gripped the edge of the bed, refusing to look at the walls, knowing I'd see faces writhing in the wallpaper. The door began to bleed a dark, viscous liquid, oozing around the frame, puddling at my trapped, shaking feet. Something heavy slumped onto the bed behind me, sinking the mattress, invisible weight pressing down with suffocating force. My reflection appeared suddenly in the television screen, but the eyes did not blink when I did, staring back unblinking. I squeezed my eyes shut, counting to 10, praying this was only a nightmare, but the chanting only grew louder. The window shattered inwards with a shriek, shards scattering across the floor, but leaving no trace of glass in the frame. A gale swept through the room, scattering papers, slamming the closet, and tearing the moth-eaten jacket from its hook. The jacket slithered across the carpet, winding itself around my ankles, pulling with inhuman strength toward the empty bathroom doorway. I kicked free and stumbled, landing on the mirror shard, slicing my palm as red droplets stained the old carpet. A cold hand gripped mine through the wound, tugging insistently, trying to pull me into the reflectionless void below. The shadows from under the bed grew, climbing the walls and ceiling, pulsing with hungry intent, whispering for me to join. The chanting reached a fever pitch, and the air crackled with static as the bulb burst, plunging the room into utter blackness. I crawled toward the door, the sticky liquid now ankle deep, hearing many voices hissing that I must finish what was started. The room spun violently, walls bending and warping, each surface covered in handprints reaching out for help or escape. I screamed for help, but my voice was swallowed by a sudden, oppressive silence, broken only by the sound of slow footsteps. The featureless face from the closet was waiting at the foot of the bed, holding a mirror frame, beckoning me closer. I tried to resist, but my limbs grew heavy, as if the room itself was sapping my will and energy. The walls pulsed, throbbing like a living thing, echoing the pounding in my chest as fear threatened to overwhelm me. The shadowy figure held up the empty frame, and within it, I saw glimpses of countless other trapped souls screaming. Each soul stared at me with hollow eyes, mouthing my name in desperate, pleading voices, begging me not to look. My legs moved of their own accord, crossing the room as if drawn by a magnetic, inescapable force. The moth-eaten jacket was now a noose around my neck, tightening each time I tried to avert my eyes. I closed my eyes, but the images appeared behind my lid's endless mirrors, each one reflecting horror upon horror without end. The chanting rose once more, drowning out every rational thought, until all that remained was the urge to look. The bathroom door crashed open, unleashing a wave of icy air and hundreds of tiny whispering voices that burrowed into my ears. The cold hand guided mine to the empty mirror frame, pressing my bleeding palm against the invisible, icy glass. Pain shot through my body as the glass reappeared, a perfect mirror growing from the frame, reflecting only my terrified eyes. My reflection twisted, mouth stretching impossibly wide in a scream that never ended, echoing in the timeless darkness. The shadows dragged me toward the mirror, pulling me inside as the room spun and the chanting reached its climax. I fought against the invisible force, nails scratching at the glass, but it held firm, cold, and unyielding. The faces in the mirror laughed, mouths full of darkness, as they pulled me deeper into the endless frozen void. Every rule, every warning, thundered in my mind as I slipped beyond the surface, vanishing into a world with no escape. I gasped for air, surrounded by endless reflections, each one showing a different, nightmarish fate awaiting those who looked too long. The chanting faded, replaced by the sound of 1,000 ticking clocks, none of them moving, trapping me in eternity. I pounded on the glass, screaming for help, but the room outside was empty, abandoned and perfectly still. The hotel clerk entered, straightening the bed, humming the same out-of-tune lullaby, never glancing at the mirrorless wall. My screams went unheard, fading to a whisper as the room was prepared for the next unlucky guest. The light bulb was replaced, the sheets smoothed, and the brass key set quietly on the nightstand once more. Outside, the neon sign flickered vacancy to the empty street, waiting for someone else to check in for the night. Shadows gathered at the window, watching, always watching, waiting for the next visitor to break the rules again. A new guest's footsteps echoed in the hall, suitcase rattling, pausing at the door of room 23, hand trembling on the knob. The cycle began again, as it always had, the curse never breaking, the mirrors never returning to the walls. I waited in the glass, desperate and silent, praying that someone someday would look away in time and escape.